Launch director, go for launch.
And excellent news, we are go for launch. All systems are go, so let's watch as Falcon 9 carries the EROS C-3 payload into space.
T-minus 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition and liftoff.
We have
Falcon 9 and the EROS C-3 mission.
Vehicles pitching downrange.
M1D chamber pressure is nominal.
Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from Vandenberg Space Force Base's Space Launch Complex 4 East,
Nominal power and telemetry.
carrying the EROS C-3 payload. Now, during ascent, we do tilt the engines, which is called gimbaling, and that turns the rocket horizontally.
Vehicle supersonic.
And that's what we call a gravity turn. And we are throttling down the engines in preparation for max Q right now.
Max Q.
And there we have now passed through max Q, or the maximum aerodynamic pressure. It's the largest structural load that the vehicle sees on ascent. The rocket typically needs to go 17,500 miles per hour horizontally in order to avoid being pulled back down to Earth and get into orbit. So you can keep an eye out on the stage 1 telemetry. We now have 6 events coming up here in quick succession. That'll be MECO, stage separation, stage 1 flip, SES1, or second stage start, engine start 1, the boost back burn startup on first stage, and fairing separation. And those events are coming up here in just less than 30 seconds. Again, that's MECO, or main engine cutoff, stage separation, stage 1 flip, that MVAC engine will start up on the second stage, and then we will have a boost back burn on the first stage, and then shortly followed by a fairing separation on the second stage.
MECO.
Stage separation confirmed.
MVAC ignition.
Stage 1 boost back startup.
Fairing separation confirmed.
And some great views of all of those events. Again, that was MECO's stage separation, stage 1 flip and boost back burn starting up, SES1 with that MVAC engine on your right-hand screen lighting up, and fairing deploy. Now we are in the boost back burn, and this should be ending shortly here. And as you saw on your left-hand screen,
Stage 1 boost back shutdown.
and there's the call out that the boost back burn on the first stage has concluded. And now what you're seeing on your screen is a great view of the MVAC engine on the second stage. Now it is T plus 4 minutes into launch, and in order to complete today's land landing, the first stage has 2 more burns left. Next up is the entry burn, and that's where 3 of the Merlin engines will reignite, and this helps to slow the stage down as it re-enters into the upper part of the Earth's atmosphere. Now that entry burn,
Vehicles on nominal trajectory.
great callouts there, both vehicles looking nominal. That entry burn that I mentioned is just about a couple minutes away from now for the first stage. Again, we are scheduled to land on land today, so the first stage is doing 3 burns. That is the boost back burn, entry burn, and then there is a landing burn for that vehicle. Now the first stage does have 4 hypersonic grid fins that help steer the vehicle during descent. And what you are seeing on your screen is the MVAC engine burning very bright there. The MVAC engine is optimized for the vacuum of space and has about 220,000 pounds of thrust. Very powerful rocket there. We are just about a minute away from the first stage entry burn. As a reminder, this is our 61st and final SpaceX launch of 2022. Stage 2 is currently carrying the EROS C-3 payload. And we are coming up here on that entry burn on the first stage in just a few seconds. Again, that will be 3 of 9 M1D engines reigniting. And there you can see it on your left-hand screen that those engines have ignited.
Stage 1 entry burn, startup.
Now this burn is about 20 seconds or so long.
Stage 1 entry burn, shutdown.
Stage 1
And
FTS is saved.
as you heard and saw on your left-hand screen, those engines have shut down. That concludes the entry burn for the first stage. Coming up next in less than a minute is the landing burn of that first stage. The first stage does have 4 landing legs stowed at the base of the vehicle, and they will deploy just seconds before touching down for landing. And that landing burn is about 30 seconds from now, and will be just the center E9 engine. That one single engine has enough thrust to slow the vehicle down to touchdown for landing.
Stage 1 transonic. Stage 1 landing burn.
And there we've had the first
Stage 2
stage.
FTS is saved.
First stage landing burn has begun. Let's watch as Falcon 9 touches down for landing.
Landing leg deployed. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
Amazing view. Falcon 9 has touched down. This marks our 160th overall successful recovery of an orbital class rocket, including both Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy first stage landings. Now we are just about a minute away from SECA 1, or second stage engine cutoff 1. That is where we will shut down this MVAC engine that you're seeing ignited at the moment. We will shut that engine down and allow the vehicle to coast with the payload until it reaches its targeted drop-off orbit. Now, just under a minute away from SECA 1 on second stage. As a reminder, the EROS C-3 payload is still attached to Falcon 9's second stage. There's just a single engine burn for this mission, so we will have SECA
Start
1.
terminal guidance.
We will have SECA 1 allow the vehicle to coast, and then shortly afterwards, will be deployment of the payload.
MVAC shutdown.
Nominal orbit insertion.
And great news, we did watch as the MVAC engine was shutting down and also heard a good call out of confirmation of good orbit. So next up is payload deploy just before the T+15 minute mark. Until then, sit back and enjoy the space tunes, and we'll see you back here in about 6 minutes.